Stugotz, you know I am fascinated by the changes in television and technology and streaming. Metal-Arc Media is in the business of trying to capitalize on the need for content, and we're thrilled to be well-positioned at a time that in the last 18 months has gotten so chaotic that I simply, and I'm not sure anyone could have predicted the amount of upheaval that is coming to content because, at least in part, major corporations are taking over some of your favorite content providers and laying people off right and left. And AMC networks are the latest. They've laid off 20% of U.S. workers as their CEO flees the premises. And I was introduced to AMC by the popularity of The Walking Dead. I did not get into The Walking Dead in any way until season 5 or 6, everyone telling me that it was the most popular show on cable. It just ended here, spoiler alert, with Rick Grimes making his return at the end. Season 11, I think it was, which was about 4 or 5 or 6 seasons too long because it was the same.
I thought it was like season 18 of The Walking Dead.
It was the same story again and again and again, but as viewing habits have changed, I, for example, am stunned that I know nothing about the show Yellowstone, which evidently is the most popular show on cable television. I know it the same way I didn't know anything about The Walking Dead and AMC as a network. AMC introduced itself to me as a network by having The Walking Dead.
I am told that Yellowstone is a great show, but a show that you have to stay with for the first season because it's boring. It's setting up everything else, but once you get past that first season, it's fantastic.
This is all you really need to know about Yellowstone. Kevin Costner is a cowboy. He lives in Montana.
It's good.
And he's got a ranch.
Mm-hmm.
Chaos ensues.
And like his kids are...
No, it doesn't even matter about the kids. Kevin Costner, cowboy,
there's murder
ranch,
as well, correct?
Chaos ensues.
Sold.
Yeah, there's some murder.
Lots of murder, very violent, gory, huge show. Like the first episode, there's like helicopter scenes, there's action, there's all sorts of stuff going on. Big show. But all you really need to know, Kevin Costner, cowboy, ranch, Montana, chaos ensues.
Why is there so much murder? Why can't people just leave each other alone?
It is interesting, Billy, because like the homicide rates are at an all-time low over the last like 40 years or something like that. Yeah, since like the crime spike in the 80s, like violent crime is way down since 40 years ago.
But it's way up as a content
on
option.
TV, everyone's getting murdered all the time.
I mean, Dateline in 2020, it's all I watch now. I mean, that and FBI. Fantastic.
It's not just that, though. The entire podcast industry, like the only things that are ahead of us in the rankings are all murder-based. They're all these amazing murder stories. We wonder why people are running dark in the head every time they get in the car. They're back to the same place of this terrible person. And why did they murder so many people?
Billy, you have a point. I mean, there's lots of essays that have been written about this murder, true crime spike happening with all of our pop culture, but shows like Yellowstone and Game of Thrones and all of these shows where someone's getting killed every week or there is going to be some gruesome murder or death that happens. Yeah, they're extremely popular and they kind of make you think that like that stuff happens all the time to everybody. And then you're like, it's just because Kevin Costner's on a ranch in Montana and there's chaos all around him.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Is murder having a moment at LeBatard Show?
I'm looking at the podcast rankings right now. It's Dateline, it's Crime Junkie, it's Murders and Magnolias. It's unbelievable. It's Morbid.
Is that one of Chip and Joanna Gaines podcast?
I think so.
Oh.
Stugotz just said it's morbid, and he was naming the podcast.
That was the podcast.
He wasn't saying it wasn't the overarching theme of all of this is morbid. If you want a podcast, check out Morbid.
It's number 7 right now.
There's also a network called the Morbid Network. So there's a network of morbid podcasts.
That is a path that the Gaines haven't traversed yet, right? The murder game, like Murder at Magnolia, whatever it's called, or like Murder at the Silos.
You think that? Oh wow, that's scary. You think that living in Waco, there would be some sort of crossover opportunity, but you're right. They haven't done that yet. Has anyone seen the new Knives Out film yet?
I was just
going to
say, what I was going to say is, have we seen how that's about to change? Because Netflix released something a month in theaters that people want a month before they do it on Netflix, and it's done well in the theaters. People have wanted to go early, and this is a new thing that's going to happen as these content companies have to figure out extra revenue streams. Basically, Netflix has taken a thing they knew would be popular, which is the sequel to Knives Out, and before releasing it on their platform, and Netflix subscribers are mad about it, Stugotz. You can't give people something for free and then start changing the thing and telling them that they've got to pay for it. It's not the way this. It's one of the reasons that we've been floating at sea for 2 years, because I feared we were going to lose our entire audience if we put them behind a paywall, because you can't give people for free something and then tell them, no, now it costs you money.
I'm not mad that they put it out and I have to spend money on it, because the first Knives Out I saw in theaters twice, and it was so good in theaters. I would spend $20 to go watch Glass Onion, the sequel, in theaters, but they put it out in theaters for 1 week over Thanksgiving during football season, college football, World Cup, holidays. I got a million things going on. I don't have time to go sit in the movie theater for 2.5 hours. And then people saw the ending, and now it's not going to be on Netflix for another month. A ton of people went and saw it. They know what the ending is, and the makers of the film are like begging people not to spoil it. But now I can't watch it. Like, if they had just left it in theaters up until the run-up of the Netflix premiere, you give people a chance to see it and not get it spoiled. But now no one can watch it. So if you're one of the lucky people who had time to see it for the week that it was out, like, you know the ending, and no one else is going to be able to see it now for a month.
But it's not even just because you're saying, oh, you got people accustomed to watching things for free. It's not just that people got accustomed to watching things for free. It's that they got accustomed to paying for Netflix, which is not cheap, and they keep raising the prices on Netflix. And so you're, in theory, providing your customers even less value by releasing a movie in theaters, asking them to pay for it in theaters. And it's kind of funny, the melding of all the business models, because even you mentioned Yellowstone and AMC. These are cable channels, right? The Yellowstone airs on Paramount Network. And no, not Paramount Plus, the Paramount Network. That's where, and it drew 12 million viewers during its top episode last season. That's a lot for a cable channel. And AMC basically, is going to be on the wrong end of, you either have to have a prolific streaming service or a broadcast channel in order to really have anything break through. Because if you're just operating in cable and I think AMC Plus is the thing, they're like the 9th or 10th most popular streamer, all those are going to get swallowed. And so you have that combined with Netflix basically saying we kind of need to go back to old business models because the movie theater can be pretty profitable sometimes. And so they're trying to figure out what exactly the model is.
It's a good correction that you made, because Netflix is not free. What I meant was, or what I should have said is, if they're giving you an assortment of things for the price that you are paying, which includes I get to see it first if I'm paying it, and you then start adding on costs after that where you're no longer getting what it is you were getting for the same price. I read a story in the New York Times this week on the front page about a very cheap man who has been tracking shrinkflation for a long time. Shrinkflation is you get a product that you used to get that had a huge bag of chips in it, and now the bag is the same size, but there are fewer chips in it. This is happening all over commerce. Shrinkflation.
Yeah, we talked about Mickey Aaron chips. That's what he was doing.
No, that's not what he was doing. Mickey Arison, when my father was complaining about the media potato chips that he got for free, that was not the owner of Carnival Cruise Lines and the Heat trying to bilk my father, who was complaining about his free things. Have you guys noticed anywhere? Billy, you strike me as somebody who would notice whether or not you used to buy something at a certain price and they're trying to disguise on you that you no longer get that thing for the same price. They are changing the value of something that you're used to paying X for.
Well, okay, I've noticed it on a couple things, because this is what I've noticed. The price is going up and you think, wow, the price is going up, but then you also notice the container that you're being served it in is now smaller than it used to be. Like, I noticed it with milk. milk is not always all the same size carton anymore. There's smaller cartons that are just slightly smaller, and you have to look at them right next to identical ones and be like, wait a minute. And then you look to see like the milliliters of how many. It's like, this is actually smaller. Like, I'm not crazy. Same thing happens with ice. Like, I used to buy ice, and ice was like a very standard, like 5-pound, 10-pound bag of ice, right? And I knew the price of ice. Like, if I'd go to buy ice because my ice maker was broken, I'd go to buy ice at Publix, and it was $1.99 for a 10-pound bag of ice, right? And now that price has gone up, and it's more than that. And then I look, and I realize there's no 5- and 10-pound bags of ice anymore. There's 3- and 7-pound bags of ice. So a 7-pound bag of ice is now worth more than a 10-pound bag of ice used to be. And if I want a 5-pound bag of ice, now they only have 3-pound bags of ice. So they're doing tricky things where it's not just that you're getting less. The containers that they're selling you stuff in is now smaller than it used to be. But they don't tell you that. You just assume
That's
like
correct.
This is just the same size it's always been.
It is a combination of supply and demand and supply chain issues, worker
and people
issues,
being sneaky sneaks.
No,
and
it's also-
inflation
Sneaky,
and
yeah.
sneaky
Yeah.
sneaks.
and
Sneaky.
capitalism.
Yeah.
Corporate theft.
Right. I mean, and I'm reading this article in the Times that you mentioned, and it's actually legitimately fascinating. This guy apparently gets emails from a whole bunch of enterprising customers that recognize this. So, for example, he references a bag of dog food that discreetly shrank from 50 pounds to 44. A cereal box that switched from giant to family size and grew about an inch taller, but a few ounces lighter. Bottles of detergent that look the same, but the newer ones come with less detergent. Like-
Did Billy write this article? This is so Billy Gil's
Right.
niche.
I'm
Billy should be
so
the guy
happy.
that goes around and just checks everyone.
No,
you
but, like,
should, Bill. Call him out.
I'm not
serious.
crazy. Like, this is validation that I am, but I'm not.
Billy,
We gotta get Edgar
Your wheelhouse.
Dworsky on the program. You guys can discuss this.
he made me a little sad, as incredibly cheap people do sometimes.
Not cheap, thrifty. He's vigilant, Dan.
I mean,
if you don't keep an eye on this thing, it gets out of control. And surely no one's listening to old Edgar, but he's keeping an eye on it.
I
hope he doesn't go
appreciate his
missing.
work. I'm just saying, whenever I see one, there is a show about people being cheap, like reusing toothpaste and stuff. And every time I think I want to see that show, I am mortified by that show.
How does one reuse toothpaste?
Just
Right,
spit it
right.
back into a cup and
Get outta
reuse it. Yes. Like
What?
there are people that are obsessively frugal in a way that is deeply unpleasant. Find the name of the show.
Sounds like something my depression era grandpa would do, to be honest. There was also an article in the New York Times this week about a man who can't stop lying, and I thought to myself, I didn't notice a New York Times reporter walking around the studio, but
Oh, a
it was
feature on me, huh?
fascinating article. Yeah.
Can you guys explain composting to me?
Oh, I used to compost.
So it's like you basically, as far as I understand
Woody will
it,
explain
it's
it.
like basically any.
Hold on. Let
you could have kept going.
He
You
got
could have
right
kept
in
going.
there. You
could
got
have just
right
said, I
in
used
there.
to compost and
About
left it
to,
there.
and then you just jumped in.
You were looking something up and you came right back to the microphone. I mean, that's on you, Whitty.
There was a space there. As far as I
I
can
was
tell.
breathing. I was
Go
inhaling
for
oxygen.
it. Go for it.
No,
Don't
I'm
breathe,
looking up
Jess.
extreme cheapskates on TLC.
That show's sad. You will find some sad stuff. Explain composting to both Billy and the audience. And I got to think.
Who's explaining it?
It sounds like you just shit in a bucket and keep this shit around for a while.
Well, we didn't compost shit. It was like food scraps, and you put it in this container, and then thank you for the confirmation, Chris. You put it. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. You put it in a container, and the one we had, you like spin it around, and you put like dirt and mulch in it and stuff with your food scraps. So if like you eat a banana, Billy, and you take the peel off and you put it in there, and then you have all this organic waste. And it becomes really great fertile soil that you can plant stuff in. So we grew so many vegetables with this amazing soil because it had so much nutrients and vitamins in it. And at the same time, you don't throw away any of your food. It just goes back into the yard, into the environment. Now, the dangerous thing is if you have a pet who then digs through the soil and finds like a little onion peel. And then you got to be like, no, don't eat that. But we grew like a humongous stalk of corn because the soil was so rich. It was amazing.
But a composting toilet is the same, just with human waste then, right?
I guess I don't know anyone who does that. It doesn't seem as I don't know. I wouldn't want to like touch that soil.
It's
probably.
deeply unappetizing. Yes, it's a different kind of fertilizer with actual human waste in it. I got to imagine, though, Billy, I don't know if this room has noticed the particulars that Billy is talking about. I have to imagine that our audience right now, everyone is saying, wait a minute, I knew that thing I was buying weighed less than it used to. I knew that somebody was ripping me off, but I didn't know how they were ripping me off. Shrinkflation is a thing, and of course corporations would try to gain every advantage over you on trying to disguise the way that they are bilking you or disguise that they're charging you more for the same thing.
Because not everyone's Billy. Most people are me. Most people are Dan. We're not checking. I know it's happening to me. I'm not checking. I'm not getting outraged by it. I would get outraged.
I didn't notice right away,
right.
Like in my own crazy defense, but like I'm the one that goes and does the grocery shopping, and then like ice is really where I caught on. I was like, wait a minute, like this used to be 5 and 10. Now this is 3 and 7. And then when I was getting milk, because I'm buying a lot of milk now for my daughter, like I noticed the cartons were different sizes, and I'm like, this is not adding up. So like I hadn't even noticed on things like cereal. But I had noticed on smaller things over a period of time, so I have no idea how long it's even been going on for.
And it's a pretty easy thing to get away with, right? Because you're buying a giant box, and you don't really notice.
You're not going to weigh it.
Right, you're not going to weigh it. And when you open up the box and there's a giant bag of cereal in there, it just looks like a giant bag of cereal. It's not distinguishable from other giant bags of cereal.
The way that the laundry detergent companies are getting me is they're putting the pods now in the child-locked bin, and I can't get the thing open, so I have the humongous container of Tide Pods that I can't... Pods, redact the title, they're not paying for this. I have the giant bin of pods that I can't get open, so then I have to buy the bag and just use the ones out of the bag because the child lock keeps me out of the big container. It's bullshit.
You could just ask someone.
I'm not going to ask someone. You know how badly I'll get roasted for asking my boyfriend to open a child lock container for me?
Oh, I thought you meant at the store, like they were behind like the
no,
safety glass.
in my
we were
laundry
eating them.
room.
But roasted by your boyfriend?
Oh, it appears that
Make fun of
Whittingham
me.
has found on the screen there some of these disgusting cheapskates I spoke of.
This is the synopsis for season 3 of Extreme Cheapskates. Parenthetically, Guide to Love. From taking funeral flowers for a date, redoing a bedroom with used hotel sheets, buying thrift store lingerie, or planning a vow renewal on a shoestring budget, Extreme Cheapskates Guide to Love showcases 4 tightwads who've cut love's high costs.
The flowers thing is not.
It's a heavy
crazy.
play.
I mean,
Funeral flowers, that's grim.
They're just gonna go to waste.
mean,
Well,
no
it
one
depends.
knows.
Going to a cemetery and taking someone's flowers?
Yeah, but they're out there. Sometimes it's cold weather. They die quickly. I mean, why not get another usage out of them?
Funeral flowers are also like sad arrangements.
Yeah.
That's not like date.
spruce them up a little.
The funeral arrangements generally don't connote like, ooh, we're going on a sexy date. They're usually sad little flowers. But again, it depends. If you're going into a funeral home that just had a wake or a service and just taking the leftover flowers versus
Fresh flowers.
going to a cemetery.
Yeah, don't take them from a grave. That's too far.
That's a
Yeah.
different story.
Mhm. But that's like when you get married, like at a church or whatever, right? You have to buy the flowers, and then they just stay behind, and like the church or the venue just stays decorated because no one takes.
I always take them. I always
Really?
take them home.
What do you do
I have
with
flowers
them?
for like 2 weeks.
Really,
Right,
even
yeah.
if it's like a giant like display, you'll take that
I'll
home.
take it home.
Where's the line? Like, what's the
15 pounds.
Really? I know people take the centerpieces home. That's like usually like a big thing.
If it's going to waste, I'm going to put it in my apartment and have a nice centerpiece for a while.
Interesting.
When I was in China,
With?
Stugotz. No, I'm not going to do that one there.
You have to.
No.
The story's not complete unless you do
well,
it. I mean.
I wasn't with Michael Jordan at this time.
Oh, wow. A second trip to China.
No, just the rare time in China when I wasn't with Michael Jordan. It was the same
bad.
trip. I've only been there once. But when I was in China, I legitimately thought of Stugotz because I'm at a strip of land where there is a giant line of people buying flowers and leaving them for Chairman Mao. And it's a giant line, and it's huge commerce. And then 7 or 8 hours later, when I walked by, I saw the workers grabbing those flowers and then putting them back in the place that they'd sold them to resell them. The tourists that had left, and I'm like, China, The Stugotz is strong in you.
That's like the rats. That's like the rats at the Panthers game. They sell you rats coming in. You throw them on the ice. They collect the rats. They sell you the same rats the next time you come.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Do they really do that?
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
they don't
100%.
anymore because they've banned
Right,
the
they
throwing
banned
of
the rats.
Really?
They banned the
I
throwing
don't
of
like
rats,
that.
but that used to be a genuine business model. Honestly,
Does the Predators do that with catfish too?
I feel like that probably has a shelf life. Whereas you could legitimately sell people the same plastic rat 120 times over the course of a year. Like you just got to buy 8,000 units at the start of a year and watch as the profit rolls in. And they're not cheap. Like they sell you those rats for like $15 or something.
Yeah, and they just collect them at the end. So let me ask you something. Back to the centerpieces for a moment. Is this like every occasion? Because like the quinceañera scene down here is very competitive for centerpieces. Like everybody wants to take it, and you have to explain to them like, hey, yeah, that giant like clear cylinder that turns into a waterfall and fireworks shoot out of, like that stays at the venue. You can't take that one because like the centerpieces get crazy, but you'll take like no matter the occasion.
Well,
if the centerpiece is up for grabs.
I'll ask first. I'll make sure that it's okay to take, that it's not something that's going to be reused or like is being rented. But yeah, I'll definitely take the flowers home. In fact, my best friend got married last winter, and I took a huge thing of flowers home, and I made a little shadow box with her and her husband's name on it, and I gave it to her for a present afterwards. I used her own flowers that she paid for.
You regifted the
something for
flowers
her.
back to her?
What's
She
a
loved
shadow
it.
box?
It's like a
shadow
little-
boxing is like
It's
rocky.
It's like a picture frame, but there's like 2 inches of depth to it. So it's like a box, but there's a glass so you can see through it. So you put the flowers inside of it, and it's like a thing you can put on your wall.
I had an idea, Dan, for a show. I don't know if you're the person to pitch it to, but again, as we discussed earlier, I'm an idea man, not the execution man.
That's why nothing gets done around here.
I'm in charge of the
You're
ideas.
you're in charge of the execution of the ideas, but you stop at the ideas.
No, I'm an idea man. So we were talking about
Just
extreme.
short of execution.
just short of the execution department. He always stops,
That's
and
not my
that's why he will
department.
not be in Buffalo,
I'm the
despite the
idea man.
initial enthusiasm
Well, Bob
of being
told
in
us
Buffalo.
he told us we could park in his driveway now, so that may be a game changer.
Really?
We'll see. Yeah, he said you could
Wow.
sleep in my driveway. So
How close is he
we'll
to
see.
the stadium?
TBD? We'll figure that out.
Okay, good.
So we were talking about extreme cheapskates, right? I think Jess might like this idea. So here's my idea. Ready? Metalark's first cooking show, Extreme Cheesecakes.
Good idea.
What are we doing with the cheesecakes?
Making them extreme.
How? Lighting them on fire?
He's an idea guy.
I'm an idea guy.
He doesn't
yeah.
have
I
anything
come up
after
with,
that.
I
Execution
come up with the
department.
main-
He's just-
exactly
He's just
right.
got the name of the show. He doesn't have anything else. You have
Kildy's
to.
gonna have to write the treatment for that.
I'll talk to John and Gary.
Yeah,
and Casilda.
Bob. You'll
We'll
talk
figure
to
it out.
Bob,
Yeah.
Bob the engineer, and it won't get done. And it'll just be an idea, and it'll stay there as an idea as Metalark goes bankrupt on your
From
ideas.
executive producer
Yeah,
Bob.
From executive producer Bob, the idea
Extreme
from Billy.
cheesecakes.
Yes. Just useless, fundamentally. The sentence that you uttered that you have to enjoy, and this happens all the time around here. The sentence, if you don't have any context for it, they've banned the throwing of rats.
Very confusing.
If you don't know what we're talking about, I got a tweet yesterday. Hey guys, fully erect rhino penis just came over my speakers at work. Thanks.
To be fair, that wasn't our fault.
It was not. I mean, it is in that we're airing this.
Ron is a freak.
Do we need to like? We should come up with very specific disclaimers, like before you begin. There is a discussion of animal anatomy that could potentially be graphic to our audience. Like we should have like super specific disclaimers
Like a
after
warning.
record.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. 15 seconds from now, Ron McGill is going to say blank. Right?
How do people, because we were talking about throwing things, you said like throwing the rats on the ice, obviously the Panthers ended up selling it. How do people get certain things in to throw on the ice or on the field of play at certain venues? Like in Buffalo, we know that they throw things on the field from time to time. How do they throw octopi on the ice at hockey? Like, how do you sneak that in?
I would presume that first off,
I don't think they're sneaking it in. I think it's just one of those things you do
just
at that
proudly
venue.
walk like with an
They're
octopus
sneaking
in
it in.
hand.
I think
Yeah, no,
they're
they're
handing
You're
them
not
out.
walking through the metal detector holding an octopus.
There's no
I mean-
way you can't check.
with hockey, you can do it. I presume that you're getting an octopus though, like on your shirt or on a jacket. Like the wash that night could be unpleasant.
You probably put it in a Ziploc bag. You
That's a good-
probably
yeah,
don't put
no,
it
yeah,
direct
exactly.
to
So
skin.
I mean, in hockey, you put it in a Ziploc bag. You put it sort of underneath a zip-up jacket. You zip up the jacket, and you're only really getting examined with metal detection. So, I mean, it's the same with the sex objects that are used in Buffalo as well. Those wouldn't set off a metal detector either. So,
Billy, what do you do if you're at a hockey game and you're wearing a hat that you really like and someone has a hattie? Like, what do you do with your hat? Because everyone throws it on the ice. It happened to be at an Islander game, and I didn't throw my hat on the ice.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you judged? I usually sit like too far that my hat won't reach the ice, so that there's not the expectation that I will do that.
Right.
But I have wondered about that. So you've experienced the hattie before, but you haven't thrown it on.
You either have to wear a bad hat or bring a backup hat. You know, a hat you don't care about, and throw that hat on the ice.
Oh, the old
you know what I'm saying?
switcheroo, like Wrigley, like in the bleachers with the ball.
Yeah. These are important things, Dan. We got to figure them out. Yeah.
You mentioned hats, and we have not yet talked about somehow this week the giant hat of Brian Robinson. Did you see the giant hat of Brian Robinson?
No.
Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
I don't know who you're talking about.
Okay. It's about par for the
Stugotz.
course. Yeah, it's about
Stugotz.
par for the course.
What
I mean,
happened?
that's
This is
just
starting running back for the Washington Commanders.
He is. I thought it was Antonio Gibson.
I mean, they share the responsibilities, but I mean, Robinson had a fairly noteworthy story before the
Thunder
year.
and Lightning.
I mean,
he was
shot.
He was shot
He
before
was
the
shot
season.
before the season.
oh, that guy. Yes.
Yeah.
Good player. Yes.
Good
really
player.
good
The
player.
guy who was shot.
Now he's in the
Yes.
business of selling hats.
Yeah. Big hats.
Giant hats. It's hard to
Can you
explain.
Google
to
it so you know
somebody
what
who
we're
has it.
talking
Well,
about?
but let's explain to the audience that has not seen it. The hat, it's a baseball cap that is about, 5 times the size of a normal baseball cap?
It's more than that. It's got to be like 50 times the size. It's huge. Is there a little hat inside of it that's on his hat? I don't understand the mechanics of it.
It looks like a hat that belongs on the head of a mascot.
Oh,
Right.
Mrs. Met's hat.
It looks, you know, like those things
Hubba,
on Twitter where someone would be like, I'm gonna Photoshop the size of this thing bigger every day
Yes.
until X happens.
Like when Kyle Kuzma wore that sweater and then people photoshopped it and made it even bigger of a sweater.
Right. And like you do it like I think there's someone who's been putting like a kid's character, I forget exactly like is it Paddington Bear? Does that sound right? Like into a movie, has been photoshopping Paddington Bear into a movie every day for like 330 straight days.
Yes,
and
I
so
have
like,
seen this.
So like this is a thing, and it honestly seems like day 57 of photoshopping a hat bigger, except it's actually a hat that he's wearing on his head. And he said after the game, when asked about it, I know the person who's selling these. I can give you their information if you want it. So he was hawking a product which was a comically oversized hat.
That person has to have sold out of giant hats, right?
It looked like a prop, though. It didn't look like something you would ever wear.
It looked like in Scary Movie 3 when the sheriff gets in the car and her hat starts getting bigger, and then every time they cut back to her, the hat is bigger, and then she can't close the door because the hat's too big.
Since he wore the hat, they've had a 2,000% increase in sales. Like, it's
But
crazy.
if you're buying that hat because you saw Brian Robinson wear it, like, when are you going to wear that? How are you going to wear that?
Well, they have
Why
hats.
are you gonna
They have
wear
hats
that?
for every occasion at Noggin Boss. They were on Shark Tank. They have USA
Yes.
hats. So if you want to get in the spirit for the World Cup,
An oversized one.
They were
Yeah.
on Shark Tank. I would love to see how that segment went. How did that segment
Well, someone
go?
invested. One of the sharks invested.
It's a terrible hat.
What?
I can't see anybody
I
wearing
feel like it
that.
would fit your head normally, though.
oh, you want to play the game? How much is a Noggin Boss hat?
Yeah, I'll guess a normal hat probably goes for $30. I think for the novelty, I'm gonna guess $37 for a Noggin Boss.
I'm going to go 55.
Okay, Stugotz.
I'm going to go 60.
Okay, Dan.
$100.
It is $75 for a Noggin
What?
Boss.
Wow.
Yeah.
Stugotz won?
Wow.
The
Yes,
only,
I did.
The
No,
only
Dan
thing
won.
Well,
that
Dan
would,
went over.
the only thing that would make me think that somebody would like the only use I can imagine for it is like to protect you from rain.
An
it would-
umbrella hat.
Right, exactly. It's like an umbrella hat because
Why
it
are
like.
you so pragmatic?
But it is. It's about the size.
I'm
It's
trying to
about the
find
size of
use.
an umbrella. It is about the
I'm
surprise.
trying to find the use for why anyone
Shade.
would wear this.
But that would be good use, right? Like, you would
Yeah.
buy it for that. You
Well,
in
no,
particular.
I wouldn't.
No, yes,
No,
you
I
would.
wouldn't.
It's
Right.
not like a tall hat, so it's not like if you have tall hair, it's fitting you that way. It's a wide hat.
It's
It's
gotta-
for if you have a giant head.
No, but it has to have, like you said, like a hat within a hat. It's got to have like a thing that grips around your skull. It would otherwise it's just balancing on the top of your head. So there's got to be something that upsets your hair.
I like that there's a section on their website that says our story as if it's something deeper than we wanted to make silly hats.
Well,
There has
can
to
you
be a
read us their
story.
What is their story?
No, there has to be a story.
Well, their story is founded in 2019. Noggin Boss was formed by two best friends who love all things faith, family, sports, business, and charity. Sean and Gabe are former college athletes, club team coaches, and have a strong history of building successful businesses. They saw an opportunity to create something fun and innovative to help you promote the things you love and are passionate about. That's the whole story.
this is so American. It's like, oh, you guys have hats in Europe. We have giant hats.
right.
We need
Ours are bigger.
We need
Yes.
to ship 3,000 of these to Qatar for the U.S.-Netherlands game on Saturday. We need all the American fans there wearing giant hats.
But Damon John is like a fashion mogul, right? Like he is,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He was the founder of FUBU.
I mean, he thought it was a
good.
good idea. He has 30% of the company now. He invested in this company.
How much equity? Like, how much did he pay for, though? I need to know the.
50,000.
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
We need to normalize, and this is going to sound horrible, and I acknowledge that on the front end. We need to normalize the idea of championship noggin bosses so that we have the losing team's hats made and then sent somewhere off into the distance where it's like, here's a hat that's comically large for a team that didn't win anything ever.
To wear with your
Like the 2022 Cincinnati Bengals a Super Bowl winning noggin bosses.
Yeah, like you can find it at Goodwill or something. That'd be
you can
awesome.
find it at a thrift store somewhere.
Yeah.
But we need to get the champions to wear it. So like this year, like Robert Kraft is wearing one when the Patriots inevitably win the Super Bowl again.
I like the idea of the losing hats ending up on extreme cheapskates because that's where they found them in the thrift stores.
But the guy's using it as like a mixing bowl.
I was going to say or a bathtub. He's using secondary use.
That's where he stores his used toothpaste.
Serving guacamole at his Super Bowl party out of the noggin boss.
No, this would be a paella. It's so large. It's not guacamole. That's an enormous amount of guacamole.
Paella. I love the visual of that.
There are a couple of refereeing stories, Stugotz, that I wanted to get to. One better than the other. DK Metcalf was complaining about a pass interference call and got caught. He got fined $30,000 for complaining to a referee, asking him, "Was that pass interference?" And the referee's response was, "Did I throw a flag?"
That's the proper response.
Which might have pissed off DK Metcalf, who's risking his body and head.
Did you not see this yellow thing that I threw?
I understand the arrogance. Probably DK Metcalf could have done without the arrogance of that, but this one's even better. Tony Brothers, have you seen this story? Because we didn't talk about it a couple of weeks ago when it happened. Spencer Dinwiddie accused Tony Brothers of calling him a bitch-ass motherfucker. And he did it in a press conference. And Mark Stein is reporting, because there has not been an announcement from the league on this since Dinwiddie leveled the accusation. Mark Stein is reporting that Tony Brothers has been suspended for one game. But the league has not announced that Tony Brothers has been suspended for one game. Do you want to take a guess at anything that's happening there? Do you want to make any kind of suppositions based on the information that I've given you so far?
I think what's happening there is, well, imagine if Dinwiddie said that to Tony Brothers. Like, I think they're having trouble with the referee saying it to the player, because I'm certain that referee has been called a lot worse by players. And there isn't a lot worse than what it is that he said. But I'm certain players have called referees a lot worse and not been suspended. And so my guess is they're trying to figure out how to handle this, because it doesn't seem fair to suspend a referee but not suspend the player.
Well, you can't really do this as a referee. You can't. I mean, it's
You
bad.
shouldn't do it as a player either.
You shouldn't do "did I throw a flag" as sarcasm, and you can't elevate it to bitch-ass motherfucker when you're a judge and arbiter representing the league. But this is where it gets thorny and interesting, because you're wrong about everything.
Thanks.
he has been suspended for one game, but the reason, according to Mark Stein, that the league did not announce it is because he has been suspended with pay, and they announce it when you're suspended without pay. So for calling Spencer Dinwiddie a bitch-ass motherfucker, Tony Brothers has been rewarded with a vacation day.
Got a night off. Paid.
Is that why you just said it 3 times? Yeah. You want to take a couple vacation days too?
What is that?
I was way off.
What is that?
Well, the referees have a CBA, don't they?
Yeah, they have a union.
No, I understand. He's protected by the union, and that's the reason that he hasn't gotten suspended without pay. But I'm saying, in what world? Like all of that, how you are there to officiate a game.
That's excessive, but the flag thing is funny. Like, can't referees have fun once in a while? Why can't they have some fun once in a while? Hey, was that a pass interference? Did you see the flag? That's a funny response. Benign, funny response.
But Stu, I mean, we had an argument a couple weeks ago about Mike Evans getting golf tips from a referee, and you said the referees have to completely disassociate themselves.
Well, that's different.
From
That's having a relationship with a player. That is not good. That's a conflict of interest. Just being humorous and saying, hey, you're asking me if that was a penalty. Did you see the flag? Funny. Normal response.
But I think that the overall point is that people want their referees, or I guess sort of the overall vision of the job is that they are emotionless robots that are merely there to arbitrate the game and are not meant to insert their own viewpoints about anything, to insert their humanity, really, about anything.
Yeah, but think about what Metcalf is doing in that spot. He's questioning that guy's judgment. He is a professional referee. He saw pass interference. He's not asking. He's not asking.
On literally every play.
It comes off as a question from DK Metcalf. He knew what he was doing there. He's questioning the referee.
I mean, how many times have we seen
How
many times have we seen a DB celebrate the coverage that he did, realize there's a flag down in the field, and then have a go at the referee? I mean, that happens 100 times a game. So the idea that you're basically trying to make a sort of exception here. And I understand that there's sort of humanity involved in dealing with coaches and dealing with players, and that's a very difficult balance because you're getting yelled at, and you have to sort of try and cool the situation while also not escalating, again, your own humanity into the situation. But yeah, I mean, as it relates to Tony Brothers, I mean, that's a pretty serial offense. Like, your job is to stand there and take it, right? Like, that's the gig. The gig is that every single person on the court is going to yell at you, and your most kind of elevated response can be, I disagree, or let me put
you
forward.
Can eject them. You can.
Right, exactly.
All sorts of things.
You give technical foul.
But
I mean, like, in terms of
but,
a verbal response.
But these are separate stories. Like, in my mind, at least, completely. You have a guy who's being questioned who says, hey, did you see the flag? Right? It's benign. It's harmless. Okay? Brothers absolutely took it too far. I'm agreeing with you there. But a referee, and there's a big difference between asking for golf tips and you saying, hey, did you see the flag that I threw?
But Stugotz,
you're asking for golf tips.
Let's make it this way. If you want to work so hard to see the humanity in the referee having fun, let's see the humanity in DK Metcalf not having fun before we get to your top 5 list of guys with great bodies that you thought would be better than they are in sports, because DK Metcalf is somebody who's excellent, and doing that job is hard, and he works hard at his body and his craft, and he cares. And I'm just curious, at the height of anger, trying to do your job well, if you think you've been wronged and you go to the official, because he's been fined $30,000 for the way he argued with the referee. Right. And my guess is emotions escalated when he was met with a referee who was sarcastic. My guess is if you were at the height of rage trying to do your job well and thought you'd been wronged, and you go to complain about it and the response is a sarcastic, did you see a flag?
But he met sarcasm with sarcasm. Like, DK Metcalf knew that it was a penalty in the eyes of the referee, and he's still questioning sarcasm. Hey, that was a penalty? Yeah, I threw the flag.
Knew it wasn't a penalty. He was calling for a pass interference, and the referee was saying he didn't throw a flag. Did you see a flag?
Right. So to your point, like, you're trying to do your job, you're trying to do it to the best of your abilities, and you have a guy who's exasperating the situation by being sarcastic.
Exacerbating.
I said it wrong?
Well, you said he was exasperated, but he was exacerbating the situation. Yes, he's angry. He's trying to do his job well, and the response is sarcasm. And I'm just wondering how you would respond if you were furious at somebody trying to do your job exceptionally. You thought you had been wrong. You're right that they're vastly different situations, but Metcalf has been fined $30,000. It's not an insignificant amount of money, and I'm just sort of explaining to you how it escalates and asking you whether the referee should be involved in escalating it. Because I expect my referees to not be. Yes, Tony Brothers is certainly escalating the situation.
No question about it. We agree there. Man, this is tough. And he got fined 30 and Brothers got a vacation. I mean,
Do people call you Rob?
Yeah, Rob, Griff, Robert.
Yep. Bobby.
RG3.
No Bobby, but Baby.
Baby.
How about 3? Does anyone call you 3?
Yes, people call me 3.
What are the percentages? If we go gold, silver, and bronze medalist of things that people called you, the bronze medalist, the silver medalist, and the gold medalist, how does that one go?
Probably 3 is the bronze, Griff is the silver, and RG3 is the gold.
You are exceptional at this job that you are now doing. I don't know how much training you have in the transition. I thank you for joining us. He's joining us on behalf of Allstate's AFCA Good Works team. We will ask him in a moment what it is that he is doing with them. I found, though, that people find you polarizing as a broadcaster. I don't know if they think your enthusiasm is contrived or why it is. Like, have you felt the polarization? Because I'm listening and I'm like, man, people should love this guy. He's bringing a great energy to the game.
Baby is out there having fun, man. He is doing what he's doing, man. I'm telling you, I watch him all the time. He's fantastic at it. Baby, you're fantastic at this, man.
He is fantastic at it.
This guy's calling me. He's calling me because that's what my wife calls me.
Oh, sorry, man. Miscommunication. Yeah.
No, listen, like I've had an opportunity to work with one of the greats, Mark Jones. People more so know him for basketball, but he brings a great energy to the booth. We have a lot of fun. Our producer, Kim Belton, does a nice job of keeping us within the lines of entertainment, putting that big E in ESPN. But at the end of the day, like people aren't used to me being this way because as a player, you're not allowed to show these sides of you as a quarterback. You're the leader of the franchise. It's a little bit more serious, a little more buttoned up. So now in the broadcasting game, I've been able to show more of my personality and have fun in that way. So it's true. It's real. I've done it for 2 years now. The easiest thing to do on TV and in broadcasting, as you guys know, is to just be yourself. So I don't worry about what anybody else says. I just kind of go call the game, have fun with it. And follow along on Twitter and have fun with it.
Well, what is your relationship with the trolls? Because not all broadcasters have that confidence, but not most human beings have the general confidence that athletes tend to have, where you've been criticized for so long that you develop at least a numbness to it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I've kind of embraced it. I had a big Twitter troll early on in my career in Washington by the name of PFT Commenter. And I've kind of shifted him and turned him into an ally. You just embrace it. You have fun. I don't worry about people saying negative stuff or any of that. I just fill my feed with positivity, go about it, have fun with the way that I call the games, have fun with the way that I use Twitter. And I've accepted that. I'm comfortable in my own skin. I'm comfortable who I am. And at the end of the day, if somebody's not, then you don't have to follow me. You don't have to engage because I'm not going to engage with those people. And sometimes I, slip up like we all do and engage with negativity at times because we're all human. But I try to make sure I stay away from it.
Well, how did your professional experience with all of its ups and downs, how did it change you as a human being? How did it change your life perspective in this regard?
Yeah, I mean, I think those ups and downs, they kind of show you who you are and what you represent. No bigger life change than being a father and being a husband. So, those things give you the perspective, but the things I went throughout my career have prepared me for this moment, the ups and the downs, being at the top, being at the bottom, being out of it, have give you an appreciation for everything that you're doing. So I haven't had an opportunity to go to all these college venues or all these professional venues that I am now with college football and Monday Night Countdown. So I just soak it all in and enjoy every experience, because you never know when you're going to get that experience again. You want to live in the moment, be where your feet are. And I just bring an appreciation to the game and being young. I'm 32. Most people that I'm working with on these sets are in their 50s. So there's just a youthful enthusiasm there that's just natural because of my age and because of my connectiveness with the younger brand of TV watchers. They kind of see that show up on the screen.
Does it drive you crazy that Brady is 13 years older than you?
No. Listen, we all know that Tom Brady ages backwards, right? He's got that Benjamin Button syndrome going on, and every time he goes up to the podium, he looks a little bit younger nowadays. I don't know what he's doing, whether it's a little bit of Botox, a little bit of hair, who knows? At the end of the day, Tom Brady finding ways to look younger and younger. I don't know what he's doing, but I'm happy for him. At the end of the day,
make the accusation. Don't do maybe. Don't do maybe. Don't make the accusation. It's not maybe.
I'm not making any accusation.
You said maybe Botox, maybe hair.
His hairline grew back. His hairline grew back. I don't know how that happened. Forward, he looks skinnier. He's stronger. He's throwing the football harder. I don't know what's going on with Tom Brady, but it's amazing.
Griff, we're all young people surrounded by old people at this job too. I'm wondering what's the difference you found between what the younger audience that watches you likes versus what the older people that you work with that produce the show want you to do.
I would say that it's more so the references. Like the references that we use are more common to nowadays, the last 10 years, whereas some of the references that the people on the crews that I work with are using are some from like the 70s and 80s. And I wasn't alive then. So that's like the running joke. They start making these references and they're like, hey, RG, you know who that is? And I'm like, guys, how am I supposed to know who that is? Like I wasn't even a thought in my parents' brain at that time. But nah. The older generation of viewers, they like the quote unquote boring style of analysis, the boring style of calling a game, not really entertaining, kind of just saying what happened on the screen that almost anybody could say. Whereas the younger generation, they enjoy you breaking down the game in a way that's simple but complicated, and also adding some pizzazz to it, having fun. That's why people love John Madden. John Madden had fun in the broadcast booth. Just not everybody's comfortable in their own skin to do that. I just so happen to be a guy that's comfortable to, go out there and not be afraid to, one, make a mistake, but also, two, not be afraid to show my personality.
Can you walk us through where it ranks as an athletic achievement for you? I want to know whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, or not on the list. On live television, in dress clothes, out sprinting an eagle or a bird. I don't know whether it was an eagle or what kind of bird it was, but a bird in flight, a predator bird in flight. You beat it in dress clothes. Where does that rank for you in terms of happiness and joy your athleticism has brought you?
It should be right at the top. I mean,
it's up there, guys. Listen, it's in my Twitter bio now. A racer of hawks. Okay, It was a hawk. The Seahawk doesn't exist for anybody out there that doesn't know, but it was a hawk, Tame of the Hawk for the Seattle Seahawks. And I knew, like, hawks fly at about 120 miles per hour when they're hunting, but when they're not hunting, you actually have an opportunity to outsprint them if you're fast enough. So nobody on the crew thought I could get it done. The producer's like, this guy's going to get blown out by this hawk. And I won the race. First thing I did was call my wife. Pure excitement on FaceTime. They're all like, "Are you really calling your wife right now?" I'm like, listen, man, I just beat a hawk in a race. Yeah. I don't know about you, but there's not many people on the face of the earth that can say they've done that. So it's pretty up there with athletic achievements, especially in a suit, tailored suit too. I didn't want to split the seam or anything. Those pants are pretty tight, but we made it work.
She gave you a baby, didn't she?
Yeah, I mean, you got a baby. You got a baby. You got a way to go, baby.
Griff, who mows the lawn at the Heisman House?
Good question.
Wow, who mows the lawn at the Heisman House? I'm gonna have to go with our resident child, Kyler Murray. He's the one that mows the lawn. He's the young buck. We decided not to give him a homework clause, but he definitely has yard duty.
You speak of the generational shift in broadcasting, but you now can look at Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson, and they have a different way of playing the position, acting in public as well, because Lamar just got called into the principal's office, was reprimanded by John Harbaugh for what he did on Twitter. And you were talking earlier about how you had to conceal your personalities as a quarterback. Here's your face of the franchise. And Lamar Jackson is very much fuck that. Like, he's, right? I mean, so explain to me what's happening there. You're playing for a new contract, but you're not going to behave by the rules of I'm going to say boring things just to get the questions away from my locker.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Lamar, Kyler, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, all these guys are playing the game a different way. They're showing you that you gotta have a guy that can move. He doesn't have to run like Lamar, but he's got to be able to move in today's game to be successful. But Lamar, from day one, the thing the Ravens have done for him is they've never asked him to be anybody but himself. Whether it's the way he wears his hair, which I was asked to change how I wore my hair, whether it's the way that he talks to the media, which is a little unconventional. Obviously not the way he talked on Twitter, but just in his own dialect. They never asked him to change that or try to button that up, which I was asked at times to change how I spoke in certain respects. So for him to go out there on Twitter and say what he said, I just look at it as it was a mistake on his part. The South Florida came out of him. He was a little frustrated with the way the season's going. They're 7-4, but they know they could be 10-1. And it's just a mistake that he made. He kind of cleared up everything that he meant when he said that, but he deleted the tweet. At the end of the day, staying off social media, like Coach Harbaugh said, after a loss, especially one that's pretty emotional, is probably the best thing to happen. And I'm sitting here talking about it, and I made my own mistakes on Twitter when I was 23, 24 years old, using the platform. So I think it's just a learning example for him. Wish if I'd have been in the building and could have been able to help him out in that situation, I definitely would have. But I'm on ESPN and had to report on it. So.
What are the other things that Washington asked you to change about yourself that offended you? Because I think those two would offend you, would they not? As you're sitting there being told, be someone different with your hair and be someone who speaks differently. Did you absorb that as offensive or disrespectful?
No, I mean, listen, ever since I was born, my parents have told me that you have to do better and be better than guys that don't look like you. And that's just the reality of the situation. It's unfortunate. It's something that I hope my kids and my kids' kids don't have to deal with. But look at it this way. If you're an African-American quarterback and you show up with an afro, there's going to be some people who are bothered by that, as opposed to a white guy showing up with his facial hair not shaved. They'll just be like, oh, look, he's got the aftershave look. But if you're black and you wear your hair out and it's, quote unquote, not done the right way or not tidy, they'll say, oh, man, he's ratchet or he's just not kept up tight. He doesn't look like a quarterback that can lead a franchise. And that's just something that, is unfortunate that, African Americans in general have to face in this country, but especially in the NFL as a quarterback. You can't just, have the talent. You got to look the part. You got to be the part, and more so than your other white counterparts.
Is there anything going back on your career, RG3? Because the way that they used you was ahead of its time, and a lot of people didn't think it was sustainable on your body. What could we go back and do differently as you look back on it and say, I just wish that we organizationally or me had done X differently because I could still be playing today if they hadn't, wrecked my body with a playing style that was unforgiving?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, we've been through this a bunch of times. I know I haven't answered this question on this show, but I've answered it a bunch. And at the end of the day, everything that I went through there in Washington is part of the journey. It's part of the story. I don't have any regrets about my career. You could sit here and say that after, I got hurt in the 2013 playoffs of the 2012 season, could have sat out longer, could have sat out a year, didn't start the year the next year to give myself more time to rest. There's a million things. Could have not got drafted to Washington. Could have got drafted somewhere else. But all those are hypotheticals. All those are a lot of ifs. And at the end of the day, I enjoyed my career. I enjoyed the journey that I went through, made me a better person, better man, better player, better husband. And at the end of the day, this is where God has me to be right now. Could I still play football at 32 years old if a team called me and said, hey, we need you? Yeah, 100%. I'm ready to roll. But God has me right now working at ESPN in the broadcast game, doing something that I can do for the next 30 to 40 years. And that's a blessing. You know, I get to spend a lot of time with my family, time that as a player you don't normally get. So I don't have any regrets from that standpoint. This is all part of the journey, all part of the process. And I've accepted that and really am enjoying it. I don't know if you guys can tell on the broadcast, but I'm enjoying.
You're enjoying this interview until I asked you a question you've gotten 1,000 times, and you had a lot of at the end of the day.
And way to call him out.
And but you went right back to being the quarterback, the professional quarterback who knows how to answer questions. So rapid fire, before we get to what it is that you're doing with the Good Works team, I just want to know, among the set that you have, Susie Colbert, Steve Young, Booger McFarland, Adam Schefter, just a handful of fill-in-the-blank questions. The person on the set most likely to be razzed the most by the others is blank.
Oh, I mean, it's me. They razz me every single show. I'm the young guy on the show, right? Steve's got his funny hair. Booger's got no hair because he put too much relaxer in it when he was growing up, trying to have a Jerry curl. So, you know, they just get on me every single chance they get. I beat the Hawk. They kind of laugh at me saying I'm trying to audition for an NFL team. I won the quarterback competition that we did earlier in the year. They got mad at me because they said I'm trying to audition for a quarterback spot on the team. So I get razzed the most, but listen, I got thick skin. I can handle it, and there's no problem there.
Most likely to eat during a commercial break.
Ooh, Booger. Have you seen Booger?
Yeah.
He rides the Peloton a bunch. Don't get me wrong. He works out. He's in good shape. Don't eat, okay?
Most likely to be late to the set.
Oh, Steve Young, 1,000%. Steve, really late. It's either his hair, his suit. He's got a conversation with the guy like on the opposite 40-yard line. Steve, everybody loves Steve, so Steve's definitely the one that's going to be late.
Most likely to sing during a commercial break.
That would be myself. I'm the singer. I sing on air. I don't know if you guys have heard any games, so I'm the singer.
No, I want to hear it right now. Sing something for us.
No.
Come on, Robert.
No, you don't ask him.
Come on, baby.
This is not a piano bar. He doesn't take requests.
Hey, Z, come on, man.
Come on.
I'm sorry. RG3, I'm sorry. I apologize again.
True or false, you would have come out and played if the Jets had called you last week.
Oh.
Yes. 100%.
What? Oh, my God. How did we not call you?
Tell the people what it is you're doing with Allstate and what the Good Works team is.
Yeah, so listen, the long story short is that Allstate and myself have partnered together. And obviously, I was a part of the Allstate AFCA Good Works team back in 2011, so I have a personal relationship there. You know, this is one of the most coveted community awards in all of college football. And really, we're partnering with the DoSomething.org to try to get and inspire 1,000 volunteers to give back to their community. So I know you guys know this just like I do. The best way to give back to your community is to go out and be active in it. So you got players around the country in college football like Caleb Williams who are doing things in anti-bullying and many other great things out there. We want to bring attention to that. So everybody can go to, I believe the site is DoSomething.org/goodworks. And you can find community opportunities that mean something to you and also mean something to the players in college football to go out and embark in your career, in your community. So that's really the main focus. We're coming off of Giving Tuesday. Obviously, everybody knows Black Friday happened and Cyber Monday, but now it's the time, Christmas time, the Christmas giving season to give back. And that's an important thing for Allstate to go out and get done.
Robert, we'll get you out of here in just a second. One last one. I think Tua should be the MVP. Do you agree?
Right now, Jalen Hurts is the MVP, okay? After what he just did with 157 yards rushing and willing them to victory, he's the MVP. But the top three are Jalen, Tua, and Patrick Mahomes. The Dolphins, I believe, are 8-0 with Tua Tagovailoa as their starting quarterback. When he starts and finishes a game, they're 0-3 when he doesn't. So that sounds like an MVP to me, but based off what Jalen just did, he kind of leapfrogged both those guys to be the number one.
I'll take ahead of Mahomes. That's good. Yeah.
RG3, thank you for being on with us. We do appreciate the time and the work that you are doing, both in broadcasting and with the Good Works team. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys. God bless.
Thanks, baby.
I know we have done a stat of the day already today, but because we mentioned the Jets there, I do want to do yet another stat of the day.
Stat of the day, stat of the day. It is the stat of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day.
This from Andrew Siciliano. Sunday's Jets win was their third game with 30-plus points, 450-plus total yards of offense in the last 4 seasons. Mike White started all 3 games. All right, so let's have at it and let's the audience see what it is that we're talking about here. Jessica knows DeShone Kizer, who was the Notre Dame quarterback, and DeShone Kizer has gone on the Brenneman podcast. Which Brenneman is this? I don't know which Brenneman it is.
So many.
Certainly not Tom.
It is not
Marty?
It is not the Tom or Marty Brenneman podcast. But he says that Aaron Rodgers is a kooky conspiracy theorist, and let's hear in his own words the former Notre Dame quarterback, as Jessica tries to reach him,
I don't know if I'm going to send this text or not. This is weird.
You might want to send one before you send the one. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, what's up?
Was thinking about you.
Definitely not. No, let's not do that.
No.
Haven't talked to you in 4 years.
Do I just acknowledge, like, this is a weird text to send? Do you think 9/11 was a hoax?
Well, I think the weirder, or that would be weirder than just saying, do you want to come on the show and talk about us talking about you? Because we're talking about your appearance on the unknown Brenneman show, or the Brenneman that we do not know show. And this is what DeShone Kizer, the former backup quarterback to Aaron Rodgers with the Packers, had to say about Aaron Rodgers loving conspiracy theories.
Shut the door, and the first thing that comes out of Aaron Rodgers' mouth was, "Do you believe in 9/11?" What? Do I believe in 9/11? Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't I? He was like, "You should read up on that." Okay. Now we start learning about the playbook and stuff. I'm like, wow, like, I don't know where this is going. But what it ended up being was just like a real thought experiment where he wanted me to go back and, look into some of the conspiracies around it, and provoke a lot of great conversation. And we really bonded over that. And, we started sharing some books and talking about some other things, and got into history and business and finance.
Do you have any other conspiracy theories?
Talking about some shit. Inner Earth, moon landing.
The moon? Oh, he's probably got some crazy theories on the moon.
Reptile people. Y'all are laughing. Go do your research. I'm telling you. Go do your research. Yeah, I might have to take you guys to Agartha. I'm telling you. Do your research.
Reptile people.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Brenneman is the Brenneman of note.
I was going to say, definitely not Marty.
Not Tom as well. We already said that it wasn't Marty or Tom. Here is, according to CBS, Stugotz, I don't know if this will be surprising at all to you. Perhaps it won't be. But the game last weekend, we've been saying for 20 years around here, you left Tom Brady too much time. How could you leave Tom Brady so much time? Mm-hmm. Don't leave Tom Brady too much time.
Yeah.
They lost to the Cleveland Browns. He is in a division, Stugotz, where the quarterbacks are Mariota, Andy Dalton, and last week's Sam Darnold.
Yep.
After they went through Mayfield and they went through XFL, the quarterbacks in Tom Brady's division that he can't separate himself from in the standings, he just lost at Cleveland, and it was the first time that Brady has lost a game that his team is led by 7 with under 2 minutes to go in his entire career. Is that surprising to you that in his entire career, that if he leads by 7 with 2 minutes left to go, nobody comes back and does the Brady to Brady?
Not as surprising to me as the fact that the backup quarterback for the Packers said that he got to Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers asked him if he believed in all of these very, very bizarre conspiracy theories. We all heard him say that, and we just moved on. We were like, okay, sure.
I mean, isn't that the space that Aaron Rodgers occupies? Like, he's very clearly conspiracy guy. We've all met conspiracy guy. I know a conspiracy guy, and every time like I hear, oh, that's what they want you to think. It's like, oh God, we're gonna do this again for another 10 minutes. Like that's what they think. That's what they want you to think. And everyone knows this person. And Aaron Rodgers is very clearly that guy. Everyone knows that guy. That guy bangs on for some topic that you had never given a second's thought to
but
for
it was
15 minutes.
It was passed along to Aaron Rodgers by somebody like Joe Rogan.
Everyone gets his shit from the internet, man.
Do your
Like,
research. It's
probably-
brain
yeah,
rot. It's
man.
internet brain
Videos.
rot.
I read a really, really sad but interesting story in the New York Times about these two men who fell into a YouTube rabbit hole during 2020 and decided to meet up and go to Hawaii and go on this boat expedition across the Pacific Ocean with this guy whose videos they were watching, and then they went missing and no one knows what happened to them. And the one guy's mom and the other guy's wife are like just, horrified because these two guys are gone now. No one knows what happened to them. All they know is that leading up into them disappearing, there was this, rabbit hole that they went down, that they believed everything that they were reading and hearing from these videos, and that's the only connection. And it's so
What did the video
strange.
suggest? Like there was like treasure or something?
No, the videos were like kind of like, oh, there's people trying to control you and they want you to do this and COVID is fake. And it all comes back down to like, 2020 and COVID and like brainwashing. And if you get a COVID test, it's going to open a portal to Satan. And it's all this stuff that like, obviously like you're reading the New York Times and you're like, this is, how do people even fall for this? But it's like, there's some tie in here where it's like, and Aaron Rodgers, like DeShone was on the Packers years before COVID, but there's this susceptibility to believing these things that to most people I think sounds completely crazy, but something about it, there's some type of person who hears it and gets interested in it and keeps falling further and further down it. And then like Whitty said, once you're already latched onto the idea, anything that anyone tells you to refute that only adds to your
Suspicion.
Your
And-
suspicion.
And your conviction that
Yeah.
like there's this grand conspiracy.
But I think the general starting place on this, and I am saying general because it's not true for anybody or for everybody, but I would think that the general starting place on this is a distrust of giant institutions, whether they be government, pharmaceutical, anything else, earned distrust of giant institutions that then you can feed your confirmation biases that lead to you ending up in a place that the earth is flat or 9/11 didn't happen.
It's that or ayahuasca.
Did DeShone Kizer claim that this is Aaron Rodgers by way of hello, that he closes a door and this is his first introduction? That
If so, that is kooky.
That Aaron Rodgers' hello is, do you think 9/11 really happened?
He did imply that. Yeah.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo, at LeBatardShow. Are you surprised that Aaron Rodgers' hello is to ask you whether or not 9/11 happened?
Just back to Brady for a second. I was surprised he didn't finish off that game. I'm not surprised by the stat you read earlier. He is still the 4 seed, the Buccaneers right now in the NFC, Dan, which means if the season ended today, Dallas has to go into Tampa Bay. You know you're taking Tampa Bay in that game. And then if they win that game, he strolls in to Philadelphia, whistling. Because when you stroll, you have to whistle when you're Tom Brady, and he's taking on Jalen Hurts. I dare you to tell me Jalen Hurts is going to win that game.
He will be an underdog.
I dare anybody.
He will be an underdog, and this is not a good Bucs team, Stugotz. I don't know how much more proof of that you need. Like it's
I'm not
obvious.
saying it's a good team. I'm saying that guy knows how to get it done in the postseason. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, but he also knows how to get it done at the end of games, and he just got beat by Jacoby Brissett.
It was a revenge game for Brissett. I mean, it was. He was back up in New England. They were friends. He said he really wanted to beat Brady. He beat Brady. I wouldn't be surprised if Brady did a solid for a friend. I mean, how about that?
How much would Dallas be favored by if they went to Tampa in the playoffs? I'm guessing 5 points they'd be favored by.
And
right
you would
now.
take Dallas?
I mean, I
wouldn't do it.
I would take them to win. I think Tampa's
And you lose.
I think Tampa's a bad team. Whether that's Tom Brady's fault or he hasn't lifted them out of it.
It's not his fault. I don't think it's his
Yeah, I mean,
fault.
you can isolate performance there, but I mean, it's a combination of, there's been some criticism this week of Byron Leftwich and for several weeks of Byron Leftwich for his play calling and for the injuries that they've had. They haven't been as strong of a team, but Tampa Bay, I just think, is flatly a bad team right now, and they're fortunate that they are in such a shitty division because, and honestly, I think Atlanta's a better team than Tampa is this year. And seriously, I really do. I think they're a better team.
But
this
it's
year.
not Brady's fault. Brady has over 3,000 yards. He has 14 touchdowns, which is not a lot for him. But it only has 2 interceptions. I mean,
but they throw the ball 50 times a game,
right?
And it honestly doesn't seem that effective or that dangerous. Like I watched Tampa, and I know that he did it to Los Angeles, who are also a bad team, but I don't really fear it in the same way. Like, I don't watch Tampa, and I'm afraid of what Tom Brady's going to do. I'm expecting him to throw a 4-yard pass to a tight end 100 times a game.
It's so stupid, some of what we do with this quarterback analysis, because, Stugotz, Tristan Wirfs was now carted off the field after a gruesome
brutal
injury, and he's great for them, and we just ignore the offensive line play
all the time.
It's just so stupid that we spend so much time analyzing the quarterback. It's not his fault. He gets rid of the ball. He's mastered the game, obviously. He gets rid of the ball faster than anybody, and their offensive line stinks.
Yeah,
and it's injured now.
It hasn't stunk this year, actually. Their Pro Football Focus pass blocking grade is 3rd in the league. So
no, it's because he gets rid of the ball so quickly, though.
They attempt to isolate performance when they do this grading stuff. I mean, look, I sometimes cite their stats as if they're gospel.
They can't run the ball. They cannot run the ball at all.
That I will grant
is
you.
Injured. Right.
They're actually their run blocking offensive line is 24th, but in their pass blocking they're decent. But when you don't have Gronkowski, when it seems like Evans and Godwin have taken a step back, they went from looking like they had 4 great receivers and 3 good tight ends to 2 receivers and half a tight end in a very short space of time.
Gronk has been a fountain of youth for Tom Brady.
And Antonio Brown was too.
In many ways, on the field, off the field, like he has. You're right. Gronk has been a fountain of youth for Brady throughout his career. We'll see if Gronk's going to come back. I mean, Philadelphia is interested in Gronk.
There's like 6 games left.
Well, that's how Gronk would come back, though.
Exactly.
There's the playoffs. That's really the season that we're getting right now.
What if he comes back and the team defeats Tom Brady and he's Tom's downfall? Would that be a betrayal akin to Judas and Jesus Christ?
Yes.
Probably worse.
Top 5.
Catholic month on Cinephobe.
We have been late getting to this. We have delayed it all show for reasons that I can't readily explain. We have a top 5 list from Stugotz of guys whose body made you think they were going to be better than they were at sports.
Yep.
Number 5, Stugotz.
Justin Blackmon.
That's so true. He is the biggest and best prospect out of Oklahoma State ever.
Yeah.
Is he not? Was he the highest drafted?
Well, I think Barry Sanders may have been a bigger prospect. I think Blackmon was the 5th pick in the draft. I think.
He might have been earlier. I think he was 2nd.
He was very high, and he also had an alcohol problem. But yes, his body was physically the prototype that you would want at that position.
He went 5th. That's a fine. $3.
I'll take it.
Right.
Number 4.
Jeremy Hermida. Jer Bear. I thought that guy was going to be like the next Ted Williams, and so did you. Everyone did. I mean, what a big-time prospect, and he looked the part.
Sweet stroke as well.
Oh, yeah.
He could swing that lumber.
I mean, he was supposed to be a can't-miss hitting prospect. Also, those come from the left side more often. Like there's something.
Yes.
I'd love to have a conversation about the most intoxicating thing an athlete can have to make you a little bit delirious with hope, because the big throwing arm on a quarterback, I think, is the sexiest thing.
Who's getting a call?
But
in
a
there?
left-handed swing.
$10.
My phone is vibrating. I thought.
Take it off vibrate. I mean, silent.
And why is it $10? The maximum fine here is
It's
$5
$5
unless someone is killed. I should fine you for making fine. In fact, I'm instituting that rule right now.
No.
You are fined $1 every time you fine for overfining. We are adding that to the legislation.
We need to vote on that. It's in the bylaws.
We don't need to vote on that. I'm declaring
If
it.
it's in the bylaws.
You make up the rules.
So you owe 10, I owe 1? Is that the deal?
The bylaws are they're made by Dan. That's what the bylaws are.
I like that.
Number 3.
Stromile Swift. Come on, you thought he was going to be great.
That's another intoxicating one, is jumping out of the gym.
But was it body type or was it leaping ability? Because it wasn't body type with him. I think of guy who, Harold Miner could jump out of the gym.
Baby Jordan.
But I think that's a different list.
I mean, Stromile Swift, I just thought on physical appearance alone, there was no way that guy would be bad at basketball. And he was.
But it wasn't just physical appearance alone. You had to see him jump. It was
my list, man.
Okay, number 2.
Charles Rogers.
And all other Detroit Lions wide receiver draft picks from the 2000s.
Mike Williams.
All of them. In fact,
Roy Williams.
He was good, though. He had some years.
I don't think he had years.
He had a couple of years. He's one of the reasons I thought the 0-16 Lions were going to make some noise in the playoffs. Kitna to Williams.
Oh, Kitty Cat.
That's how I got. Nobody called him Kitty Cat.
Everyone does.
Roy Williams had one season, 1,310 yards and 7 touchdowns.
Guillermo, put it on the poll at LeBatard Show. Did anyone call John Kitna Kitty Cat?
There's just no way.
Look it up.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Many are saying the Stugotz move of look it up and then he disappears. Then he just goes out a side door as you're looking it up and the conversation is shifted. And it is a great distraction technique where he just tells you, if you want to prove me wrong, you do the work. And you know what else? Once you prove me wrong, it doesn't matter. I'm going to keep doing it to you. It's just the ultimate checkmate.
I won't be here to hear.
By the time you're done looking it up, I'm going to be on I-95 40 minutes home.
These are the conspiracy theories that Stugotz tries to indoctrinate us into believing. These are the things you walk in on your first day and Stugotz whispers them to you. Tries to get you to believe that people call George Kitna a kitty cat.
Close the door.
John Kitten, although I don't blame you for calling him George
I don't even know
Kitna.
who we're talking
It's
about.
okay.
$2.
Can you tell us whether DeShone Kizer has texted you back yet or not?
Negatory. I don't think I'm getting a text back.
Number 1.
Well, wait, what was the actual text? Like, what was the...
I softened the language a little bit. I said, here's a random text. Since we're about to talk about this on the LeBatard Show, were you JK about the conspiracy theory stuff on that podcast?
Softer.
I don't feel good about that.
Were you JK?
Yeah.
Which part don't you feel good about? Just
Any of
appearing
it.
in his life?
Just the text.
For
All
you.
of it. I don't even know if this is his number. This could be anyone.
What a strange text to get if you're not DeShone Kizer.
That is a scary proposition.
Really
when
is.
you text a number you've had for a while, and it could have gone through the life cycle of being out of use and then back into use to somebody else. So it comes up as a blue text, but it could still be some random person's number.
Jessica, I do feel like you've been pressured into doing something that I think you volunteered to do.
I take full blame from myself for doing this. Yeah.
There wasn't a great urgent need.
I'm a stupid idiot. Well, I felt weird talking about, we were talking about a subject matter where I know the person saying it. So I was like, well, maybe we should get some clarification, because from the clip, you can't tell if he's like, yeah, look it up, haha, do your research, or if he's like, no, do your research. Do your research. And that's why I'm like, would like some clarification.
But Aaron Rodgers is Stugotz. Aaron Rodgers does tell you, hey, those buildings you saw go down on 9/11 didn't happen. Look it up. And then he's 40 minutes to Parkland by the time you're done looking it up.
I'd like to back away from that. I mean,
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
there was a time where I would have been perfectly fine. That time has passed. I mean,
What?
Love you, Aaron.
Number 1, Stugotz.
Andre Bruce. Oh, my guy.
It's a fine list. My list would be very different. It's a lot of Orlando Woolridge.
Oh my God.
It's a lot of Alonzo Spellman.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
You have a good list.
I do have a good list.
Woolridge is fantastic.
Oh, holy shit. We've got a shocks brewing here at the World Cup. Well, Tunisia leads France by a 0-0, which is stunning, but Australia just went 1-0 ahead of Denmark. The simultaneous starts. No, Tunisia was advancing before Australia just scored there. So, I mean, they're top of the group. They're top of the group no matter what. Yeah. So they made 11 changes, which is why Tunisia, which by the way, I mean, Denmark at times have been one of the best teams of the tournament, and yet they just can't score goals. Chopping. Oh, I mean, that's shambolic defending and goalkeeping. The player who just scored for Australia has the most Australian name. Matthew Leckie. His name is Leckie. Leckie. Get in there.
Get in here for the first 5 minutes of the bank, and then what are we trying to get here? We're trying to get 20 minutes to add to 20 minutes, so he can leave somewhere in the middle of the segment, just leave to go what he has to do.
Yeah, let me just get the TV side.
Wait, today's show's done, right?
Today's show is done.
Okay. So okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yep. Just give us 2 minutes.
The soup. Let's do the went to dinner and an argument broke out over soup. Just start us there. Tell me what you need to start us there.